Just hang out is live. Well, do we want to give it a few minutes and see if anybody shows up, or should we just start?
We can give it a few minutes, I think.
Okay. Do you want to bring Emma up to speed on like what we did on our first lesson?
Yeah. First lesson we did Leave It, and then we kind of did rewarding a behavior that you only like want to do on command. Was that what we were doing? With like the jump up and then settle down.
Mm-hmm.
So we started with a few games, and she's gotten pretty good at Leave It. She's still really bad at table surfing, but she gets rewarded a lot because I have a lot of roommates, and we all are pretty bad about leaving stuff all over the house. So
she just gets up there and gets it.
Yeah.
Oh, great. Okay, well, if you're just joining us, I'm really good at this stuff. Okay.
It's okay. I'm right here with you.
Welcome. My name is Mackenzie. Thanks for tuning into our puppy class. I'm just a little background on me. I have a CBCC KA, which is just a fancy way of saying that I have a certificate for behavioral training. And I've been doing like clicker training, positive reinforcement training for 10 years now. Good job. My dog's name is Oso. I'm really just like a half dog parent to him because I only see him once every long while, but we're friends. We're good buds. The funniest thing I've heard about him doing recently, I guess he started collecting rocks and piling them in his backyard, which is actually like a bad thing in my mind, but that is kind of also funny. What else? The other day he visited when I was doing some work at for like a food thing, like a feeding a bunch of people dinner. Yeah, that was a good one. I like that one. And there he was a big goof, and he ran around and tried to find all the non-dog poisonous rat poison. Okay, I'm also trying to train this puppy to only bark softly or not at all. So I'm a little distracted. Emma, you want to do a quick introduction?
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, I'm horrible at mute. So I'm Emma. I have my CPDTKA, which basically just stands for Certified Professional Dog Trainer. Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll go with that. Clicker training for 4 years, and I have 2 dogs, Sugar and Kanga.
Do you have anything funny to say about them? Do you have any funny videos of Sugar that you can just play real quick for us?
Any videos?
Or sounds?
Sounds. You're referring to a certain...
I would...
Whenever you need a pick-me-up, that's all you have to listen to.
Well, you've just like, where can people find that so that they can listen to it endlessly later?
Sugar needs to have her own Instagram, I swear.
That is true. Sugar does need an Instagram. All right. Thank you, Emma. Emma, are you fielding questions or not? I forgot what happened there.
Yes, but I'm the only one watching currently.
Oh, that's the viewer.
That's me.
And then it went to 0. So who I want to
Where did you go?
Yeah.
Oh, good. Do you have any questions before we get started, viewer? It took the pressure off. No? Wait, mute yourself again so I can ask you something. Okay, I'm done. I'll stop. Oh, did you want to introduce yourself? Come on. Come on up. Yeah, I know. It's like a trick. Who's this? Oh, that was a good one.
Here.
Come on up. Really reward that behavior we're trying to.
Yeah.
Who's this?
This is Koya.
And who are you?
I'm Becky.
Who's Koya to you, Becky?
Koya is my one and only. She's my main lady. Had her for about 3 weeks now, I think. And she's pretty wonderful. She likes to stash pine cones. She's very squirrelish. She collects all these pine cones when we're hiking, and she'll like put them in different places along the trail. Like she's gonna come back to them later.
That's so good.
It's really adorable. She's a talker. She's very vocal.
Yeah, she likes to talk.
Yeah.
Okay, did you not chew one of those treats? Anything else we should know about Koya?
She bites a little too hard.
Okay.
She likes to jump up on people a little bit too much. She kind of nipped my friend in the face the other day, so I'm a little worried about that. She didn't do it like aggressively, but the jumping up on people is not super. Are you okay there?
Can you drink some water? She's hacking. She's like, I am fine. Feed me more treats. Yeah, I heard you. Okay, cool. Anything else?
No.
Okay, so Koya's going to be our experiment today. We'll see how that goes. She's trying out the barking. I got to do a better job of catching like the soft ones. Okay, well, thanks for joining us for puppy class. We're just going to go over a few things. I have this very awesome, incredible slideshow to go through. Yeah, I'm going to keep Koya quiet while we do it. Bye. Here's your task for during the slideshow. Let's do a little bit of just leave it training with her.
Okay.
So these two are going to do leave it training. I'm going to do a slideshow. So here we go. And we're just going to go over the main things that you want to learn or think about when you're raising a puppy, especially for the first time. A lot of people just get a puppy. They kind of dive in without necessarily always knowing everything that a dog trainer of 10 years knows or two dog trainers of over 15 years know. So we thought we'd just run this class to try and help people get a sense of like the best way to raise a puppy because there's a lot of bad information out there. So I just made this slideshow tonight, so forgive me if it's not the best slideshow in the world yet, but it's going to get there soon. I'm like on my way to the best slideshow, but in the meantime, it's a perfectly fine slideshow for our purposes here. Okay, so this class is designed for dog owners. And just to start introducing you to the idea that you can have a well-behaved, good puppy who knows a lot of things and is actually a lot less work if you commit to raising them positively. So you can always reach out to us at nobaddogs.org, and we're happy to help you. All training's by donation. That might change here soon for a very specific sort of training that's not this. But if you're interested in any sort of training, we can do a one-on-one session online, or if you're in Missoula, Montana, we can probably arrange to meet up in person. What else do you need to know about that? Not much. Just go to our website to sign up. You can always shoot me an email, Mackenzie@nobaddogs.org, if you have any questions there. That didn't work. Next slide, Mackenzie. Okay, Mackenzie. Emma, what's Kanga thinking about right now? Oh, she has to unmute and say something.
You want my impression of Kanga, but she's still thinking about why the hell there's no peanut butter in her Kongs.
So how does she say it? You won't do it.
I'm settling at your feet like a good girl. There's no peanut butter in the Kongs. Then she gives me this look, like she's settling in her head or like this. She's like, beef?
She's just like lolling back into her head.
Yeah, she's like giving me the look like I'm sitting here, I'm waiting. Where's my peanut butter?
Where's my peanut butter? You can see the slide, right? It's working.
The Marvin voice from Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy is a good one for dogs.
Oh yeah,
Especially for labs.
What is that voice?
Okay.
Okay.
Lots of
And I should do this in my horse's voice or something. I feel like I have a horse voice. Wait, but Emma, you can see this, right? It's big. It's working before I start reading it out loud to people.
No.
Oh, you can't.
I can't see anything. I see you guys.
Oh, dang it. Thank you.
But there's no screen share.
I messed up. Thank you. I'm glad I verified. Okay, here it is. Now we see it.
Now we see it.
Now it's big.
Yep.
Great. Thank you. couldn't do it without you, Emma. I just couldn't do it without you. I would have done this whole slideshow without realizing that no one could see the slides. Okay, so really quick, I just want to go over a few general things about puppies that I think are important. So it's important to remember that puppies can be rough, and that when we're frustrated or upset, that's when we're at our worst for dog training. So if you're having trouble, if you're running into something you don't know what to do about it, be sure and ask for help. You can ask your vet. They sometimes know really good answers. Sometimes they know bad answers. Depends on how old they are. Usually, a lot of old vets didn't get any sort of actual science-based teaching on how to change behavior. So they're just kind of going off of whatever they happen to think about. And you got to think about it like talking to a doctor about a psychological problem. They may have good advice, but the best advice they can give you is to go talk to an actual psychologist. And that's what a good trainer these days is. If you do go looking for a trainer, feel free to reach out to us for some guidance on it, but you can also check the CPDT website for good trainers in your area. And you're looking for someone who's positive, who has years of experience, ideally someone who learned from other trainers, not just from some magical knowledge that they developed by running around with dogs for 5 years or something like that. So if that's their credentials, go looking for somebody else, and even better if they have certifications and do things like regularly attend conferences with the APDT or someplace like that. So another really important thing about training puppies, helping puppies, is getting to know the various stages of puppy development. It's really important because if you're not familiar with that stuff, your puppy's going to do some weird stuff especially if you adopted a young puppy. You're going to shepherd them through a whole lot of different stages of early development. And if you don't know what to do in those stages, it can create really big problems later on. But if you do know what to do, you can have a pretty dream dog and you won't even notice, all the things that could go wrong. So I'm just going to share a link because I think that's more than what I want to cover here, but I'm going to quickly go over the worst things to watch out for. So I think this is a really good link, diamondsintherough.com/developmental stages. And it's just worth looking at. And it just breaks it down like week by week and then month by month of what's important to know about puppies and where they're at with their development and what to watch out for. So did you write it down? You should write it down if you have it. All the developmental stages are important, but you need to watch out for fear periods, number one. There's typically one at 3 to 4 months, right? And that can come a little bit earlier, a little bit outside. Sometimes it can be delayed and come, even in my experience, like as far along as into like 4.5 months if the dog had a really tumultuous childhood, puppydom. And then you got to watch out for another one that shows up sometime between 6 and 12 months. They don't usually last super long. Just because it starts in 3 to 4 months doesn't mean it goes for the next 3 to 4 months. They can run anywhere from like about 1 to 3 weeks, depending on the dog. And the best way to help your dog like move through those is to provide exposure that's comfortable to them, where they get to have a say in what that comfort means. So that means that they're in a position where they can move away from the thing or approach it. They're being introduced, if they're being introduced to new people, those are new people who are calm, who won't freak out on them, who will listen to their boundaries, who won't make them afraid. And ideally, they're just getting reintroduced to a bunch of people they've already met and had good experiences with and getting more good experiences. So that means extra special treats, really good, like calm interactions where the puppy is mostly in charge of how those interactions go and the person isn't chasing them around, picking them up, insisting on petting them, insisting on holding them, those sorts of things. So they're learning that people are comfortable, calm, and will respect their boundaries, and they don't need to be super afraid in order to get their boundaries respected or do things like bite or pee or cower in order for people to respect their boundaries. So same thing goes with other dogs. It's best if during a fear period, they just meet dogs they've already met and maybe 1 or 2 calm dogs who aren't going to do anything too crazy. And then lastly, I think it's really important to know that I miswrote this, so I'm going to misteach it now. That you need to focus on reteaching. Puppies need to learn lessons repeatedly in multiple contexts to really understand them at this age. But then if you do take the time to reteach, they'll really, really understand it. And then you need to relearn usually how to best teach your dog what to do rather than hoping that you magically learn English and you'll be able to explain it to them. And that really just means clicker training and using the principles that I'm about to teach you. So if you're like me, you're probably taught like to do a lot of things like correct bad behavior, to roll your dog on their back, growl at them if they do something wrong, especially if they growl or bite you, to use words a lot that your dog has no idea what they mean yet, those sorts of things. So rather than doing those things, I think it's really super important that you focus on positive socialization and learning how to teach your dog what to do and focusing on that. Okay, so all of these are much easier said than done, but if you take the time to do them, then pretty soon your dog will be doing amazing things like this little guy and wrapping themselves in blankets. And you'll get flooded by awesome puppy love because they'll all love you because you'll respect their boundaries. So let's go over it one more time because it's easier said than done. So once again, remember, fear periods pass easy when you're patient and kind. Your dog may start randomly acting fearful of things, but don't freak out. Don't force them to have what you decide is the proper response to them. So if they bark at something and they haven't barked at it at all, don't insist that they go up to it. You know, don't do that sort of stuff. Instead, find a place where they're comfortable and create a really positive experience with that thing, right? So maybe your dog all of a sudden like freaked out because the vacuum cleaner came on, even though they haven't been afraid of the vacuum cleaner before. Well, a good way to deal with that isn't to tie a leash to them and tie them to the vacuum cleaner. A good way to deal with that is to put down their food, start up the vacuum cleaner in another room for a minute, then turn it right off for a few seconds, where they're ideally not freaking out. It's all contingent on what they think is fearful, not what you think they should be afraid of. Let's see if I missed anything on that. And then re-expose them to things that they used to be comfortable around where they are comfortable. See if they can practice relaxing, calm behaviors around those things. Give them something positive like food, chew toys, give them somewhere to escape to that they feel comfortable. Oh, now all of a sudden the scrolly thing works. And don't overdo it on exposure. And then they also go really clear if you practice calm socialization and clear and kind boundary setting, where you're just focusing on making it easy for them to succeed and relax around things rather than having to encounter and interact with everything. And lastly, it's really important to avoid punishment, anger, striking, yelling, and flooding, which is just exposure to so many things that they're afraid of. Some people think that all of a sudden their dog's really good because, like, you know, I took them to the park and there's like 12 dogs and 16 people and they've been afraid, and all of a sudden they're just not afraid anymore. And usually that's because they're too afraid to even offer the scared feelings that they were offering before. It's a common response to flooding called shutting down. So just be really careful. If they're nervous of things, don't get 10 more of those things and make them interact with them. Try and get positive associations with one of those things at a bigger distance or something like that. Emma, do you have anything to add to any of that? 1 second, 2 seconds. You can just start interrupting me if that's the case.
No.
And then another good thing to remember is that socialization is really crucial for puppies. I love that because it's going to be such a great trick. She just jumped into my arms while I was sitting. She's like, I need some attention from you. And you're right next to my table. And good socialization starts after your puppy has had their first round of shots. It means being calm, comfortable, relaxed, ideally, and practicing what those things look like, and also practicing like getting excited, calming back down. Puppies exploring at their own pace. This is a lot of me just reading things to you all. I'm sorry. I wish you could have seen her jump into my lap. It was really good. It was really good. And then giving them opportunities to take breaks, not putting them in overwhelming situations. We already covered that. And then reteaching the things you want to see in new spots. We're going to cover some of that today, I think. Okay, fear periods, socialization is key. Learn about clicker training. We're just about to the end of this slideshow, which will get more entertaining as we go along and find more cool gifts, but only had so much time today. So remember that a clicker looks like a toy, but it's a tool. We're going to show you a little bit more about it in a second. But the principles are you need to learn how to use it and use it appropriately, or you won't see results. So you got to treat it like it's a tool. That means putting it somewhere people that don't know how to use it don't just like find it and start going clickety, 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 because it just won't work that way. It needs to be really clearly paired with learning and positive behaviors and followed up by food. And if you click it 20 times, that's 20 repetitions of it not being paired with those things. Just like I like to use the metaphor of if you use the wrong end of a hammer, you'll put holes in your wall instead of sinking nails, and the same goes for the clickers. So just make sure that you're actually taking the time to teach people if you give it to them and to learn how to use it before you use it. Work in short sessions, like 5 minutes max. With a puppy, that's probably long. Even 1 to 2 minutes is pretty good. I usually just count out a certain number of treats and then use those. And make sure and give your dog breaks, and then do something else fun after training. So it's not just like training's the most fun thing and then it's all over and they have to bark at you or bite you or whatever to get your attention. Okay. And lastly, I think it's really important to know that Mackenzie doesn't know how to scroll on this thing right now. These 3 principles. You should teach that. I always teach puppies that self-control, believing the things that they want, and relaxation get the things that they want in life. And those things are, you know, getting to play with other dogs, getting attention from me, getting to go outside. And I mean, it doesn't have to be 100% true. I just want it to be 90% true, 95% true, so that when they want something, they're offering, ignoring it, relaxing, and just like chilling out and the behaviors that I want to see rather than... Yeah, we got some puppy gas. You might have some puppy poops tonight from the salmon. I'm sorry. Okay, the next thing to remember is that it's important to keep things no big deal, make bad behaviors good by putting the behavior on cue, rewarding the behavior when you request it, and showing your pup where that behavior is paid. So not all, like there's no such thing as bad behavior. There's just a behavior that you haven't figured out how to use the way that you want and teach your dog when it's appropriate to do it. So everybody doesn't want their dog to bite somebody until someone is attacking them, and then they want their dog to bite that person. But your dog doesn't always know what the appropriate time to present what behavior is. So not to say that you should really teach your dog to bite people when they attack you is a really bad example. I'm sorry. And then lastly, we're really taught to notice the negative and focus on it, but you'll see a lot more success if you put your time and energy into noticing the positive things and ignoring the negative ones as much as possible, or teaching them in a positive context. So if your dog's jumping up, teach them to jump into your lap on cue, and then pretty soon you'll have a dog who will run and jump into your arms, which can be a really great safety behavior if there's, you know, a vicious dog that shows up or somebody is trying to hurt your dog. So those are the things where if we can notice and teach how that behavior is performed positively, it'll get its outlet, because usually it's driven by some sort of emotional need. And then we start to create a lot of context in which behaviors are good. And if they're on cue and once they're demonstrating it thoroughly, you just only reward it when you've asked for it, pretty soon you'll see that your dog has a whole slate of tricks that are really hard to get for most people, that impress everybody. And those tricks were all built out of what you used to think or other people used to think were bad behaviors. So don't focus on the fact that this behavior is one you don't want to see. Try and think about, how can I use this behavior to do something that I want to do, something cool, something helpful. And usually you'll find that you can transition that behavior into something really helpful. And that's, like I said, it's easier to say than to do. And that's where it's important to spend the time learning and practicing and asking for help from people who've done it already. And the other thing about focusing just on the bad behaviors, where we focus on saying no or trying to stop them and thinking of them as bad behaviors, paying them that attention is often just all it takes to reward them and keep them going at where they're at. So if instead we try and channel them into something else that we like, pretty soon we won't even see our dogs doing, we won't notice that internally we're frustrated with our dogs about the behaviors that they're doing, because we're always just looking for opportunities to change those behaviors into something we want to see. Yeah. Okay, so let's do a little practice with, all of a sudden I can't say her name.
Koya.
Koya, jeez. Mackenzie.
Just take out this.
I know, I don't know why that's hard for me sometimes and not others.
Are you from California?
No, I'm from Montana. I'm from here.
That's right, you are from Montana.
Yeah, I'm from Montana. Okay, let's give it a shot with Koya. So we already did some work one time with Koya on a few things. Do you want to talk about that for a second, Becky?
Yeah. we worked on Leave It training, and she's improved definitely on that. And then we tried to work on food surfing, but she gets rewarded a lot
Right.
on the counter, so it's a continued battle.
All right, great. So do you want to just pick one of those things and we'll talk about how to kind of problem shoot it with
Food surfing.
Okay, great.
Yeah,
We'll
she's
do
doing pretty good at Leave It in a lot of regards.
great.
Yeah.
So I think of like what we typically call counter surfing, but food surfing is totally fine as sorry. I can try and do the camera work. As a behavior that it extends out of Leave It, but it's just a more sophisticated one. And it is important that we like manage the behavior right. So it's important that like if we're identifying that one of the problems that it's persisting is because it's getting rewarded because there's food getting left out everywhere. It's going to be difficult to change that behavior so long as that persists. So one thing we can do is manage the environment by making it easier for people to put away food. So what I would do, which I know it's like stepping it up a notch because it seems maybe a little bit crazy for like a first-time dog owner, but I'd put out signs and just be like, hey, y'all, remember that puppies, like what they rehearse at this stage is going to be something that they're going to like practice for the rest of their life. So please remember, like, put away food, or even just a sign like after you've said that to them, it says, remember, put away food. And it's like a good reminder for you. It's a good reminder for your roommates. Like, please help my puppy, like, not have this problem for the next 5 years. Let's put away food. And then also like getting them involved by teaching them games that they can play to help her improve, because that's rewarding, right? Whereas the other thing feels more like nagging somebody and it's not necessarily positive. I think that's like totally fine to ask of your roommates, but it's not fun. You can then teach them how to do fun things with her that encourage her not to do it. And them having success with that, or like have me teach them, you know, whatever you feel comfortable with, them having success with that will increase their likelihood of wanting to do the things that aren't as fun, which is remember to put away their food. She's like, I'm ready. Okay, but what are those things? Well, we've done some Leave It training with her, but let's just go back over just quickly what clicker training looks like, and then what that Leave It training looks like, and then let's do a little practicing around my house. So the other thing that I forgot to say there really quick is another way to help improve that behavior is by taking her to new places and reteaching. So I'm going to try and do this down here. We good, Emma? You see okay? Great. I saw the nodding. So Leave It training just looks like dog is interested in the food. And then I'm going to mark it first when dog's not paying attention to the food. Got a handful of food here. And I'm going to feed somewhere else. Oh, yeah, it's really fun. So again, dog's not paying attention to food. I'm just going to reinforce. A lot of times this just starts with dog's nose is right here, really investigating, really investigating, really investigating, sometimes for like 10 seconds. And then I'm going to just mark the moment their mouth comes away. It's so hard, but we did a good job. So investigating, comes away. We got a bark there too, but that's okay. And then really quickly, I'm going to raise criteria to not even investigating. Hopefully. Yeah, that's hard. We'll try one without barking. I like that. She's just like, this is so fun. I got to bark about it. Good. And then we can also raise criteria by just having food open instead of in a closed hand. This isn't the best tutorial, but it's just a good introduction. So open hand, not investigating, barking at me. Let's see if we can get one without a bark. Try one without a bark. There we go. I just didn't get a bark, so I like that. Good. I'm just making it super easy so that we can keep having success without the bark. Little puppy. And pretty quickly, the bark diminishes, right? Focusing on the positive, right? Just trying to find a like how fast I can get away with fast, quick, no bark, right? Fair rate of reinforcement. Great. So that's our general Leave It. And then we can practice like lots of different things, like practice on the floor, leaving it. So there's one right here, and she's ignoring it. Great. And if you want a more thorough tutorial, you can find it on YouTube. Just look up Leave It. You'll see like some really good stuff. Or you can go to my website and read about Leave It training by just clicking on the search button and typing in Leave It. Great. So that's a good session on Leave It. And it's really a good idea to teach that at home, teach it in your kitchen, teach it in your living room, and get them practicing ignoring the thing that they want in order to get it. Okay, so how does that translate to counter surfing? Well, it's the same game. I'm just going to start practicing it in different places. No, it's the bag. But like the bag is getting her amped up a little bit. Training's getting her amped up a little bit. So we're getting kind of like puppy tired freak out times, which is fine. What I'm going to do is try and capture the calm moment. So I have a bag of food right here. It's right on the counter. I'm going to close it. So if she does happen to get it off the counter, nothing too crazy happens. A bag of food on the counter. Barky puppy. But now she decided to lay down, which is really good. Good job. And we're practicing ignoring bag of food on the counter. Then I might change it up and put the bag of food right here, and maybe she'll go for it. Can you point that kind of at it?
Yeah.
Oh, I know. But she didn't even try. Okay. And ideally, if you're taking her places, practicing something like this, and practicing at home and teaching your roommates to do it too, pretty soon, she's starting to learn that when people set things down, if I ignore it, it gets really good, like responses. So she's still not going for it, so I can click treat. But I would have each one of them start with Leave It training before they start practicing something like that. And I'd make it really easy for them to put the food out. Do you want to play a little bit of it? Or let's pause and you can ask some questions if you have any, and then you can practice a little bit. So that's kind of what we went over last time, but where do you think the problems are showing up?
I think it's just with mainly with not having all the roommates on board with it.
And that's tricky, right?
Yeah,
that's one of the harder
has
things.
Their own thing going on. But I did talk to my roommates and ask if I could kind of puppy proof a little bit more and that we can move food out of general areas.
Right.
And then I've been putting her in my room with a bone, like you suggested, when we eat.
Oh, great.
To take her away from opportunity for her to get food. So.
That's a great idea. Yeah. That's a great idea. And I think maybe now just adding in, like trying to take her a couple places to practice, like she's doing here.
Yeah.
I know that this isn't the best practice session because like I'm distracted, but you could take her to a friend's house and practice for 5 or 10 minutes of just like, oh, there was something really interesting left out, but in a way that she can't immediately get rewarded.
Yeah.
And practice a lot of rehearsals of, oh, I'm ignoring it. That's getting me rewarded. Let's see if we can do something crazy and put the bag of treats somewhere on the ground and see if she can ignore it. Sorry, I really had this idea now that I want to try. Emma, do you have anything to add to that? Okay, so she was interested. Nothing? Good. All right, I'm just going to try this. She investigated. We'll see if she thinks to leave it. If she didn't, that's okay. We're going to practice again. See, that wasn't hard. I didn't do anything too crazy. Slight amount of punishment because I just took it away, but she's getting a lot of rewards too. Ignoring it, right? It's a lot harder when it's just on the ground. Ignoring it. Right, she just had to rehearse one time where she got investigated and ignored it.
I've been saying leave it, and she does pretty good when you vocally say it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
The reason why I wouldn't teach the cue for this is because most of the time when counter surfing happens, it's not because you thought to tell your dog to leave it, right? So the cue is an intermediary to the behavior. So I would like to see the dog just practicing, just ignoring whenever it shows up. I wouldn't rely on the cue. The cue is great for to practice and to have, but that would be more for something like on a walk, or when it's right there. So her duration is pretty low, so we can work on that a little bit. But she ignored me doing all sorts of stuff to it for a long time. Yeah, that's even better. I even got some eye contacts away. So I'm setting it down again. Oh, and she ignored it for that. This is like me doing a really bad job training, but we got a puppy, so it's easy. And the dog just laid down. That really awesome stuff. Now, eventually you can move up to just open food, but I wouldn't start there. She's only been doing this training for a week.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, do you want to do a couple?
Sure.
Great. So let's start back over because it's a new person, even though you've done a lot of this with her. And just really quickly teach her without the word to leave it from your hand open.
Okay.
And then slowly build up to setting it different places.
Okay.
Does that sound okay?
Yeah.
And I'll try and run the camera this time. And then we'll call it a night. If we don't have any questions from our myriad viewers. Oh, that's awesome. Beautiful. Beautiful. And ideally, we're setting her up to practice this way more than actually getting stuff. Huh? You might have missed that one. Oh, that was so good. Look at that. Nice little jackpot there. We didn't really cover that. I did a really bad job and forgot to go over clicker training, but that's okay.
Oh, that's incredible.
Yeah, right? Very good. Look at that.
Sorry,
Oh, no, you're good. I was being a bad camera person. I'm going to try and move this down here. You have to get them out. And let's just do one more. You can try let's do a couple easy ones so it's not just getting harder. It's important. And then we'll call it a night. Yeah. So just going back a step to.
Just keep going back through. And
yeah, making it nice and easy. Yeah, because we don't want to always be, everything I do, it's just going to get harder and harder and harder, right?
That's probably maybe where frustration is coming from.
Yeah, exactly. If that's an easy thing to do early on in training because we're like goal-oriented humans, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're taught to be that way really strongly. But if we remember to kind of like end on a couple easy fun notes. Yeah. And like I think of the like barking as just kind of a different thing that we didn't really cover, but I can give you some tips on another time.
Awesome.
Yeah. Okay, well,
there we go.
Are there any questions, Emma, from our myriad viewers? No, Emma's not even going to chime in with that. Hey, Emma, what's Kanga thinking?
She's sleeping.
Oh,
She's probably dreaming about 3 Kongs filled with peanut butter. Maybe filled with peanut butter.
It's always peanut butter for her.
Always peanut butter. There's nothing
better. Do you have any questions for me before we call it a night?
Off camera, maybe.
Okay, we'll follow up with some questions here in a second. And just really quickly, while Koya says goodbye, I just want to say thank you to all my Patreon supporters. I had printed out a list of your names, but then I forgot it in the printer, so I'm sorry. And I don't want to forget anybody, so I'm not going to run down it. Also, there's so many people watching that, like, they're really going to care. But I do appreciate it. If you stumble across this video and find it helpful and want to make sure that more of them keep happening, you can contribute on Patreon. You can spread the word. There's a lot of things you can do. If you want to know what some of them are, you can go to nobaddogs.org/donate to find out. Thank you for watching. Thanks, Emma, for backing us up. And we will see you next week for our dog behavior workshop. Bye.